The only thing worse than your new girlfriend telling you that yours is fine because the big ones hurt would be you avoiding these 7 players that I would bet my life savings on in 2025 fantasy football. Inside today's video, we're going to be going in depth into each of these 7 players, and by the end of today's video, you will know exactly why you want to be drafting each of these 7 players. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask if that you are new to the channel, you do make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure you leave a like on today's video. So without further ado, let's get into 7 players that I would bet my life savings on in 2025. We begin with Drizzy Drake London, wide receiver of the Atlanta Falcons, current sleeper ADP wide receiver 9 at pick number 14. So he's currently coming off the board in a 12-team league as the second pick inside of the second round. Now, Drake London is a wide receiver that I would argue could go at the end of the first round. Drake London last year played in all 17 games for the Falcons and had his coming out party for the NFL. This was his best season. Wide receiver 5 in PPR and wide receiver 14 in PPR points per game. He played in all 17 games, ranking 3rd in targets with 157, 9.2 per game. He ranked 7th in terms of receptions with 100, 5.9 per game, 1,271 receiving yards. 4th at wide receiver, 74.8 per game, and he had 9 total touchdowns, 9th at the wide receiver position. Now, while there was the change, the moving of the baton at the quarterback position for the Atlanta Falcons, this was a move that, in my opinion, is going to benefit Drake London in the long term, and we saw how it benefited Drake London last season. On your screen right now, you can see every single game that Drake London played last season. Highlighted are going to be the games with Michael Penix Jr. as the lead signal caller. In those games, he had 8 targets, 13 targets, and 18 targets. Now, obviously, it is a little bit insane to just assume that Drake London is going to suck in 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 targets a game, right? That would be absolutely ludicrous. But what those stats show you is that Michael Penix Jr. is incredibly confident in throwing the football to Drake London. And every single week, we not only saw the targets increase, but we saw his fantasy production increase. That first game, he was the wide receiver 41. In the second game up against the Commanders, the wide receiver 24. And then in week number 18 up against the Carolina Panthers, he dropped his nuts, his gonads in their mouth, and was the wide receiver 1 with 40.7 points. Now, I don't believe, again, that 12 plus targets is going to be the usual for Drake London, but I definitely think he could flirt in the 10 plus targets per game range. And at the wide receiver position, when you're playing in a half PPR, a full PPR league, getting all of those targets that lead to receptions is going to potentially lead to Drake London finishing as the wide receiver number 1 in fantasy football. This is a guy that is relatively efficient. He was 23rd in target accuracy last season, 10th in yards per route run, 12th in yards per team pass attempt, 5th in expected points added, and 12th in fantasy points per route run. In terms of reception perception, Drake London, in my opinion, grades out very well. If you look on the screen, success by route run, Drake London is a great wide receiver at the NFL level. And I think the reason why people aren't fully all aboard the Drake London train is for 2 reasons. For one, they don't trust Michael Penix. And while I just outlined that Michael Penix Jr. has a hard-on to throw the rock to Drizzy Drake London, some people are scared that he's not the franchise guy, that maybe he's not going to live up to expectations. And frankly, Michael Penix Jr. doesn't need to become Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't need to become Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't need to become Josh Allen, Joe Burrow for Drake London to be successful, because again, this is a great route runner who is going to be heavily utilized game in and game out. And when I can get a wide receiver that I believe is going to see a boatload of targets game in and game out like Drake London, I am willing to believe in Drake London. Now, the Falcons are one of those teams that, in my opinion, kind of have that stink on them, right? You think about how you drafted Bijan with Arthur Smith, and Bijan had you sleeping with the fishes like your name was Luca Brasi, right? I fully understand that, but this is a different Falcons team. I believe that Michael Penix Jr. is going to be good enough to feed the rock down the throat of Drake London. Again, targets are key in fantasy football, and Drake London is going to see a ton of them. So I love getting Drake London in the early second round. And again, I think you could argue for him to be a top 12 pick in fantasy drafts. Next up, we got Josh Jacobs, running back of the Green Bay Packers, sleeper ADP running back 9 at pick 24. Now, it seems like a couple of weeks ago, Josh Jacobs was pretty strongly sitting inside of the third round, which I thought was crazy. How can you get Josh Jacobs in the third round based upon the numbers that he put up last season? But people were nervous for some reason, because again, I could not figure out why that was happening, and now he is going inside of the second round as the last pick inside of the second round. Now, last year was very interesting for Josh Jacobs because I was someone that was talking up Josh Jacobs. I was giving him the gawk 9000. I was massaging his skin flute metaphorically, of course, and it did not go well early on in the season. If you guys remember, Jordan Love Me Tender, Love Me Sweets gets hurt in Brazil up against the Philadelphia Eagles. Things go tits up, and Josh Jacobs really does not perform well at all. Week 1, he was the 25th running back in fantasy. The week following that, 23, running back 50, then the running back 25. But then we saw a lot more consistency coming the way of Josh Jacobs, where he finishes, despite starting off incredibly slow at a snail's pace, like he was having a bunch of weights tied to the whole bottom of his body and he was trying to move out of the ocean, something like that, right? He was still able to finish as the running back 6 on the season and the running back 8 in PPR points per game. He had 301 carries, 17 points per game, ranking 6th. 1,329 rushing yards, 78.2 per game. He ranked 6th in rushing yards. He was 26th in targets, 24th in receptions, and he was 15th in receiving yards. Interesting enough, Josh Jacobs scored his first ever receiving touchdown in 2024, which is crazy because Josh Jacobs isn't this stone hands like he looked at Medusa type of running back. This is a guy that can catch passes out of the backfield, and last year was his first time getting lucky, finding his way into the end zone. So now that he's kind of broken that seal, I'm thinking we might be able to get maybe just 2 receiving touchdowns out of Josh Jacobs this season. He scored 16 total touchdowns last year, 4th at the running back position. And this is a guy that here's a guy who I believe is going to get a shit ton of opportunities yet again to score a lot of touchdowns. If you look at the tweet on your screen from the 33rd team, players with the most goal line rushes in 2024, Josh Jacobs was first with 22, followed by Chuba Hubbard, Kyron Williams, Derrick Henry, Jalen Hurts, Jonathan Taylor, all guys that you could see having huge fantasy seasons. This is not a team that is trying to push their quarterback into the end zone, right? They want to use Josh Jacobs on the goal line, and I believe there is zero reason to think that that is going to change in 2025. In terms of efficiency, Josh Jacobs is not only a really good running back because he gets a bunch of carries and he's just getting some Fugazi points, right? Because we've seen it in the past, right? Not the best running backs can put up huge seasons because they are seeing so many touches. They're getting so much work. Josh Jacobs is putting up big numbers because, for one, he sees a bunch of carries, a bunch of receptions, but he also is a great running back. In terms of efficiency, he's 12th in explosive rating, 15th in yards created per touch, 9th in dominator rating, and doing all this being the 34th highest run block rating. Now, I don't necessarily think the Green Bay Packers have this untouchable offensive line, impenetrable offensive line, and they're just going to be a brick wall out there for Josh Jacobs, but he doesn't even need that. And if you look at another graphic that I found from the 33rd team, every running back that had 1,000+ rush yards after contact last season, we've got guys that you love, right? Derrick Henry, tractor Cito, run straight through your face. We got Saquon Barkley, and then at number 3, we have Josh Jacobs. I think the Green Bay Packers made a great decision bringing in Josh Jacobs from the Raiders. I believe heavily in the Matt LaFleur system, and especially when you don't really have a bunch of crazy ball hawks in the red zone at the wide receiver position, I think they feel very comfortable jamming the ball down the defense's throat, handing the rock off to Josh Jacobs every single fucking time when they're in the red zone. I love Jacobs this season, and I am ecstatic about his upside because just like Drake London, I can really see the path towards Josh Jacobs becoming the running back number 1. At number 3, we got Garrett Wilson, wide receiver of the New York Jumbo Jets, sleeper ADP wide receiver 15 at pick number 30. If you guys have enjoyed this far, hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money. Whether you are new to the channel or not, leave a like on today's video. So Garrett Wilson was the wide receiver 10 in PPR last year and the wide receiver 21 in PPR points per game. Now, things were starting to look pretty good. Now, I know there were some rough patches, but early on in the season, it started to feel like things were coming together. It started to feel like Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson were on the exact same page. They weren't on a different chapter. They weren't reading two completely different books. They were on the same page, and it started to go well. And then Davante Adams shows up when the team is absolutely dog shit, and it kind of ruins the upside that Garrett Wilson had last season. But, and this is a big but shout out to Lisa Ann, he was still able to put up a decent season compared to how it could have potentially spiraled really badly with the addition of Davante Adams, wide receiver 10 in PPR, wide receiver 21 in PPR points per game. Just like Drake London, Garrett Wilson is a guy that commands targets in the wide receiver room. He has had 3 straight seasons ever since entering into the NFL from Ohio State. He gets drafted to the Jets. He had 147 targets in 2022, 2023, 168, and then last season he had 153. If you look at the wide receiver room that is around Garrett Wilson, it is abundantly clear that he is the clear alpha in this offense. There is zero argument you can make for any other wide receiver on this roster to be the number 1 wide receiver. And if you try to make that argument, frankly, I am just going to do the see no evil, hear no evil type deal. I ain't listening to that, right? I don't care. There is no argument for anyone else on this roster to be ahead of Garrett Wilson as the wide receiver number 1. Last year, he ranked 4th in targets with 153, 9 per game, 101 receptions, 5.9 per game. He was 5th in terms of receptions, 1,104 receiving yards, 64.9 per game, 11th, and 7 total touchdowns, 20th at the wide receiver position. The touchdowns have always kind of been the thing that are holding back Garrett Wilson, but I believe this year the door is wide open for him to break that wall down and become the top 10, top 8 wide receiver that we know Garrett Wilson can be. In terms of efficiency, 3rd in juke rate and 6th in true catch rate. Now, Matt Harmon recently released a bunch of perception information out to the public via Twitter. That's why we talked about it with Drake London. Jets wide receiver Garrett Wilson 2024 perception profile. Some highlights: 77.6% success rate versus man coverage, 94th percentile, 82.4% success rate versus zone, 78.6% success rate versus press, and he was the best contested catch rate of his career. Like Matt Harmon writes, Wilson is an awesome wideout and a dangerous separator at all 3 levels. I fully agree with that background or that breakdown. The tape does not lie with Garrett Wilson. This is a guy that has been held back by quarterback play and personnel decision by the Jets. Now they have Aaron Glenn, and I understand that Aaron Glenn is not some offensive guru. He's no Ben Johnson. He's no whatever head coach, Andy Reid, Nick Sirianni, Mike McDaniel, whatever head coach you want to just fondle the nuts of, right? I understand that he's not that, but I believe this is going to be a much better looking regime. Plus, Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson played at college. I understand the college narrative doesn't always work. I remember back in the day when Andrew Luck got drafted and I thought him and Kobe Fleener were going to be this dynamic combo at the NFL level because they played in college together, and that didn't end up working. But I do get that, hey, you got to give at least some sort of confidence to that because they do have that 5G LTE connection together. I don't think the Jets are going to be the most pass-heavy offense in the NFL, but I fully understand that once they throw the ball, you know where it's going, and that's to number 5, Garrett Wilson. Next up, we move to Chase Brown, running back of the Cincinnati Bengals, sleeper ADP running back 12 at pick number 33, which is too damn low. Chase Brown last year was the running back 10 in PPR and the running back 14 in points per game. But before we talk about Chase Brown some more and the rest of the players in today's video, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our partner over at Underdog. Underdog has a great offer for new users today. If you sign up using promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description as a first-time depositor, you'll receive a free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Not only do I love doing the pick'ems over on Underdog, I also love doing their best ball drafts. Best Ball Mania is their biggest tournament, $15 million in total prizes, $2 million to first place. They also have smaller entries over on there. If you don't know what best ball is, it's the best part about fantasy football. It's the draft and that's it. There's no waivers, no trades, no in-season management. Underdog automatically puts the highest scores into your lineup for you every single week. There are also smaller contests than Best Ball Mania available as well at smaller entry fees. So make sure you guys do check that out. Promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description. Back on into things here to rattle off the season stats for Chase Brown. Again, running back 10 last season in PPR, 14 in points per game. He had 16 games played with 10 starts. He had 229 carries for 990 rushing yards, 65 targets, 54 receptions, 360 receiving yards, and 11 total touchdowns. Now, from weeks 9 through 17 is when the team truly gave him the metaphorical keys to the backfield, when they let him be the running back that he should be, the workhorse running back on the team. He was a top 12 running back in 6 of 8 of those games, top 8 in 5 of 8 games, and 4 of 8 games he was inside the top 5, top 5, top 5, top 5. And despite those facts being true, right, you can just look them up, he is still coming off the board as just the running back 12, and I see in some drafts he falls even further than that. If you are just looking at the scores on the screen, if you had Chase Brown from that stretch, down the stretch of the season, where your most important games were being played, Chase Brown was putting you on his back straight to the fantasy football playoffs. And I believe we are going to see similar production consistently out of Chase Brown in 2025. He, in the 8 games without Zach Moss, was averaging 18.9 carries per game, 5.5 targets per game, and he was the running back number 1 in expected PPR points per game. Now, people will say, Nick, don't you know that Zach Moss is back on the team? Sure, that is true, and they have other running backs, but this is a team that if you read through the coach speak, if you read through what the team was putting out there for us, they have been incredibly positive on Chase Brown being the clear lead back on this team. Sure, they're going to use other running backs. Chase Brown isn't going to get 100% of the snaps, but the team believes that they can give him the ball at a very high rate. And if they're able to do that, which is similar to what we saw down the stretch of last season, the upside really is a top 3 finish out of Chase Brown. Now, this is never going to be the most run-heavy team, frankly, just because their defense sucks donkey cock. This is a defense that has more holes than a piece of Swiss cheese, right? So this is never going to be the most run-heavy offense, but they're going to be in games, and Chase Brown is also a running back that can catch passes, right? He's not another one of these guys that can't catch the ball at all. So if you dump the ball off to Chase Brown, he is going to make things happen. I love the Bengals offense. I love what I saw out of Chase Brown last season. And again, there is nothing that makes me believe that the production he put up from weeks 9 on is not repeatable. So I'm going to jump onto the Chase Brown bandwagon again, and there's still room for you guys to hop on behind me. Next up, we move to Chuba Hubbard, running back of the Carolina Panthers, sleeper ADP running back 19 at pick number 48. He was the running back 15 in PPR last season, running back 13 in PPR points per game. 15 games played, he had 250 carries, 1,195 rushing yards, top 12 in both metrics. Top 12 in terms of targets with 54. He was 13th in receptions with 43. Only 171 receiving yards, 41st at running back, but he had 11 total touchdowns, 12th at running back. Now, if you guys remember the season that was the Carolina Panthers last year, it was very weird, right? They start off with Bryce Young as the starting quarterback. Then obviously things aren't going well. They say, hey, sit on the pine. Then they give it to the red rifle, Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's playing okay, I guess. And then Andy Dalton ends up getting into a car accident, and they have to kind of switch things back to Bryce Young. And at this point, most people are thinking Bryce Young is finished, both mentally, for one, because he just got fucking benched for Andy Dalton, and for two, he just really didn't look all that good. So everyone's kind of down on the Carolina Panthers, and rightfully so, right? I don't think you were foolish for thinking the Carolina Panthers weren't going to have a good year at that point. But then things really do turn around, and we start to see Chase Brown not Chase Brown, who looked incredible towards the end of last season. We started to see Chuba Hubbard really evolve in this offense. And even in games with Andy Dalton, Chuba Hubbard is looking great. And again, this is still on a bad team. Weeks 3 through weeks 5, he is a top 8 running back in every single game. Running back 4 up against the Raiders, running back 7 up against the Cincinnati Bengals and Chase Brown, who we just talked about, and the running back 8 up against the Bears. Then, he falls off a little bit, but he's still okay. And then weeks 9 through week 12, he's the running back 10 to 21. Week 14 up against the Eagles, he rips off a running back 8 performance. And then week 16 up against the Arizona Cardinals, he was the running back number 2 in the final game he played on the season. Now, do you have to be super high on the Panthers offense to love Chuba Hubbard? In my opinion, no, you do not, because this is another running back that I believe is a lot better than people will give him any credit for. 12th in true yards per carry, 6th in dominator rating, with the 30th best game script. A graph on your screen right now shows the running back rushing yards over expected per carry and yards after contact per carry in 2024. And if you notice, Chuba Hubbard is surrounded around great running backs. He's around a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs. He's close to Saquon Barkley, and this graph also really tells you that maybe we should really, really, really love Bucky Irving this season. And obviously, Derrick Henry's fucking great, right? I didn't need to show you some graph. All I had to show you was a picture of him stiff-arming a motherfucker straight to Middle Earth for you to have realized that Derrick Henry is really good. But Chuba Hubbard really is a much better running back than anyone will even give him credit for, and frankly, better than I gave him credit for last season, because even though I was on the Chuba Hubbard bandwagon, I was still liking his other teammate at the running back position, who now just isn't going to play in 2025 because sadly, Jonathan Brooks tore his ACL again, which is just absolutely terrible. And just another metric, just more metrics for your head top for you right here. Fantasy points data, stacked boxes don't matter to these running backs. Best yards per carry versus 8+ men in the box. 8+ men in the box sounds like a Bonnie Blue video. Chuba Hubbard ranked 6th. So even when they're loading up, they're ready for Chuba Hubbard, he says, fuck that noise. I'm still going to get 4.31 yards a pop. I like the Panthers this year. I think they got better with Ted McMillan. I think Bryce Young's going to take yet another leap up. He's going to get more consistent, and that's just going to add to the allure, the safety of Chuba Hubbard. I love Rico Dowdle, but frankly, Rico Dowdle's going to be riding the pine while Chuba Hubbard's the lead back on the team. Next up, we got Easy E, Evan Ingram, tight end of the Denver Broncos, sleeper ADP tight end 9 at pick number 93. Evan Ingram last year was a bust. because he ended up getting hurt, he was the tight end 32 in PPR, tight end 12 in terms of points per game, 9 games played, 4 games missed with a hamstring strain early on in the season, and he missed the final 4 games with a shoulder injury. 64 targets, 7.1 per game up in Jacksonville. Duval with the Jaguars, 22nd at tight end, 47 receptions, 5.2 per game, 365 receiving yards, 40.6 per game, and he scored just 1 total touchdown. But that's not really something that heavily worries me for Evan Engram with a build like Evan Engram possesses. He was 10th in target separation last year, 10th in yards per team pass attempt, 7th in expected points per game. And he even shed the narrative against him. Nick, he only played in 9 games. I get it, but he only had 1 drop. If you guys remember back on the Giants, Evan Engram was going out there like he went to Diddy's house and stole a bunch of lube, put it all over his hands, and started playing football. I am telling you, there were so many egregious scenarios with Evan Engram on the Giants. Even when he was playing really well with the team, it would hit him right in the hands, right in the breadbasket, and he was just dropping it. It was legitimately embarrassing. It was so frustrating. But once he was in Jacksonville, he really stopped doing that. And I think Denver is a much better team than the Jacksonville Jaguars. And while they do have some interesting names on the team, like they have the Marvin Mims, they have some players that they have drafted, and yes, obviously they have Cortland Sutton, I think Evan Engram is going to become this nice safety net, this nice safety blanket for Bo Nix as he develops as an even better quarterback at the NFL level. And on the screen right now is a tweet from Lobos FF Den, tight ends who have 90 plus targets over the last 3 years. It's Travis Kelce, TJ Hawkinson, Evan Engram, David Njoku, and George Kittle. I believe that a tight end could very well succeed to a very high level in Denver with Sean Payton. Now, I understand the Denver tight end room has been a disaster for fantasy, right? If you drafted a Denver tight end, you end up leaving your fantasy season with nothing at the tight end position. You have to drop them like it's hot, like that Snoop Dogg song, by like week 3 because you're getting 0 production. But I think things are a lot different with Evan Engram because he is a very valuable tight end. He is one of the better, at least top 10 tight ends in the NFL. And if you believe in Sean Payton, you believe in Bo Nix, and you think Evan Engram is just decent enough, the path towards a top 3 finish is very clear in my opinion. Final player to discuss is going to be J.K. Dobbins. We're sticking in Denver. Running back, sleeper ADP running back 43 at pick 140. J.K. Dobbins is rising quicker than your cock in the morning, and for good reason, because J.K. Dobbins looked great last year. I get there's going to be people that say, Nick, J.K. Dobbins gets hurt tying his shoes. Nick, J.K. Dobbins stubs his toe and he's out for the season. Nick, J.K. Dobbins goes to brush his teeth. He deep throats the toothbrush. It takes him out for the year because he hit that fucking uvula or whatever the hell that thing is called inside of your mouth. I get it. J.K. Dobbins is not the textbook definition of healthy guy, right? But as long as he bubble wraps himself for the offseason, J.K. Dobbins has the opportunity to start for the Denver Broncos. Now, I know we love RJ Harvey, and I do as well, but I think it might take some time with RJ Harvey to become the lead back. And if Dobbins can stay healthy, based upon what we've seen through Dobbins' career, and especially last season, Dobbins could potentially, push him off and stay as the lead back on the Denver Broncos until inevitably he gets hurt. Last year, he was the running back 4 in week 1 up against the Raiders, then the running back 5. Sure, after that, there was not the best games, but then week 9 up against the Browns, he's the running back 6. Week 11 up against the Bengals, he's the running back 10. Week 17 up against the Patriots, he is the running back number 10. So again, the health is a huge question mark. But when you're drafting the guy for basically free, that doesn't really go into the equation at all, in my opinion. And I would be comfortable taking this guy much higher than this, just simply due to the upside he possesses weekly. Now we're going to go back to the graphic that we talked about earlier with Chuba Hubbard. Stacked boxes don't matter to these running backs. Best yards per carry versus 8+ men in the box in 2024. Number one prostitute in all of Kazakhstan. Wawa J.K. Dobbins. 5.8 yards per carry versus 8+ men in the box. Unk still got it. Again, I understand. Nick J.K. Dobbins always gets hurt. I get that. But when you're basically drafting him that late for free, why not take the upside? Because if he does stay healthy, he could become the lead back on the team for the whole year. So to me, J.K. Dobbins is a certified smash at pick 140 as the running back 43s. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you didn't enjoy, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video to help me out a ton. If you don't follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. I love you a long time. Check out one of the videos on our screen. Have a great one. As always, good boy.